Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. First, flag salute. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I keep forgetting that I have this. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember McCardle,
Present.
Councilmember Murray,
Present.
Councilmember Ryan,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall,
Here.
Councilmember Woodard,
Here.
Mayor Matsumoto Wright,
Here.
and Councilmember Sonmore asked to be excused.
Move to excuse Councilmember Sonmore.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So next on our agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comments?
We do. John Bleschmidt.
John Blake Smith, 4905 219th Street Southwest, Mountlake Terrace. And what I wanted to do, I wish Laura was here, I wanted to praise her for saying something to the top cop about the hotel over there. And she shouldn't have had to say anything. A couple, 3 days later, in the Mountlake Terrace News that you can get online, one of the policemen was quoted as saying, yeah, we've been having trouble there for years. Well, I showed that to my neighbor, and he said they should have got off there. Well, he said ass. I guess I can't say that. They shouldn't have to be prompted to do their job. And maybe you guys should prompt whoever's supposed to tell them what to do to get going. And like I just gave Doug a thing about a place down here it could be a used car lot with motorhomes and everything on it. There's 7 or 8 rigs on this one lawn. We all went by it when I took you guys for a ride, and it's still there. And I gave him the thing, so as protocol, I can give that to somebody, and they'll tell the police. Let's see if the police do anything about it. Hopefully they will. And I called the assistant city manager before you were here, of course, and trying to find out. Down the street from me is a motorhome that used to have a canopy or a tarp over it, which blew off, which is wadded up on their lawn with a broken bookcase laying on it. And they put a new one up, and they got 6 or 7 waste management garbage cans pushed up against it to hold it on. Those are all supposed to be up by the house. There's 2 different areas in the code that says they got to be up by the house. One of them says they've got to be shielded from the street or the neighbors. None of that's done. I talked to code enforcement, and he told me that's not my job. And when I talked to the assistant city manager, he said, I'll see if I can find out. And they had me talk to this Matthew, is it Geisel? In the building department. Well, when I got done talking to him, I was confused. But in essence, he said the city's not going to do anything about that kind of stuff because it might cause litigation. And I says, you mean you got to have a lawyer to tell people to move their garbage cans? That's pretty much what he said. So he said they weren't going to do anything with that. They're going to do more important things like something that might be life endangering. Now I'm paraphrasing. It's been 3 weeks since I talked to him, but I thought, holy Christ, I don't want that stuff down the street. My neighbor now's got the same kind of stuff. The neighbor on the other side every 2 months has an exterminator coming because they're getting rats around their house. The city needs to step up. And how long has it been since I bugging you guys? And I've been bugging the cops for 5 or 6 years. Enough that one came to my house and told me they're not going to do anything. This is before the pandemic started, but a new appointed sergeant did that. But anyway, Laura did a great job, and I hope you can get the cops to start doing something about the problem. There's a Volkswagen on 221st where the Candy Crane Trail comes up. License plate expired in 2018, and it's still parked down there, and the briars are still growing over the top of it. That needs to be taken care of. And as Doug told me when we were going around, he said John Caulfield used to see stuff like that and tell the cops, and they would do something, where Hugel didn't do it. But then, like I said, neither do you guys, evidently. And maybe the interim manager might do that when he sees stuff around town. Something's got to be done. The place I showed him, there's a long list of stuff in one yard. And the two houses to the east of that are both messed up. That's all I got to say. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Do we have any others?
There's no one else here in person who is on the list, but if there's anyone in the online audience who would like to speak, please use your hand raise tool. Going once, going twice. No one raised their hand. That's the end of public comment.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to open it up to the public. Does anyone else want to speak at public comment? No? All right. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the consent calendar then. Councilmember McCardle.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent calendar, items A and B.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Did you have a question? Oh. All opposed? So it's been adopted. My mind went blank. All right. And then next on our agenda is the council liaison reports, and I'm going to start. Let's do something different. We'll start with Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Back in October 18th, I attended the Arts Commission meeting. They are currently working on evaluating how well the Arts of the Terrace show turned out. So far, it's very positive, but they're putting all together their data. Then on, last Sunday, I attended the Garden Club cleanup, where we go to the entrances to the city. It says, "Welcome to Mountlake Terrace," and even at the Evergreen Field up here, and clean up the beds, getting them ready for the winter. And that's and I did the workshops on the 3rd of November. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I am working from memory because my computer's not cooperating super well with me tonight. But I would echo, I was at the work session on the 3rd. Going back a little further, I did want to recognize on the 31st attended the trunk or treat here in Mountlake Terrace, and want to thank all of the community members and the businesses that came together to put that on. It was the first kind of post-pandemic one that we have done, and it was so well attended. And it was really nice to see all of the time and effort that folks put into their trunk displays, as well as all of the folks who turned out to go through that line. And so just want to share my appreciation for returning to some normalcy in all of the businesses, the Mountlake Terrace Business Association, and all of the businesses locally, particularly Maria Ellis, for all of their hard work there. And I think that was it for me, Mayor. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember McCardle?
Thank you, Mayor. On Thursday, October 3rd, I attended our Regional Fire Authority Subcommittee meeting with myself, this interim city manager, and Councilmember Woodard. And just kind of a brief, the Regional Fire Authority, as most of you know, we contract for our fire services with what used to be Fire District 1, but in recent history, Fire District 1 and the city of Linwood came together and created the South County Fire Regional Fire Authority. And we still contract with them, but our contract is due to expire at the end of 2024. So we need to begin looking at alternatives for fire service, whether that be annexation into the Regional Fire Authority or other means of servicing our city with our fire and EMS services. So there's going to be next year's heavy topic of discussion and heavy lifting on what are next steps so that we can continue to provide our residents with those essential services. And then I was also at the workshop, and that's the end of my report.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me begin by saying welcome to Native American Heritage Month. Going back to October, on the 18th, Tuesday, the Ballinger Lake McAleer Creek Forum met. I was unable to attend. However, what came out of that was a joint letter to WSDOT, who is planning to replace the 3 culverts under I-5 as a interlocal organization. We went on record with a formal request that they look at the entire stretch from Ballinger Lake all the way down to Lake Washington and all the culverts. The council or forum, the forum all signed on to that to just make that interest and need known. On the 19th, our DEIC met. Always a wonderful conversation. Piece I will add here is that they have new leadership. So just wanted to formally thank the previous leadership, all of them are DEIC, for the great work that they have done for these past couple of years, and in particular that they stayed on and plan to continue to do great work. Saturday the 22nd, the Ivy League met. Always just a big thank you. Under new business, I'll bring up Ivy League in their request. On the 25th, I had an opportunity to participate with the Economic Alliance in Snohomish County. They had a topic, building stronger businesses through diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's always recorded, so I encourage you to have if you get a chance to review that video. It's about 45 minutes or so. Just a wonderful dialogue of some experts. That same day, later that night, I had the opportunity to participate in Snohomish County Labor Council's inaugural Mike Sells Champion Award. Hopefully the name Mike Sells rings a bell to most of us here. And it was just an amazing who's who in labor at this event. Wonderful and honored to represent Mountlake Terrace there. On the 2nd, now we moved into November, I participated in Linwood's unveiling of their Gold Star Families Memorial. It's at their Veterans Park on 44th, right there near the Fred Meyer, near their city hall. It's just an absolutely stunning tribute to the families who have given the ultimate sacrifice, one of their kids. And it's just a wonderful, beautiful space to reflect and pay your tributes. If you get a chance, I strongly encourage you to have a look. On the 3rd, thank you, Councilmember McCardle pointed out I was at our RFA meeting as well as our study session. On the 4th, I only bring this one up to parlay that into something else, which is to say I participated in the Verdant Health Networking Luncheon, where I actually met for the first time our new MLT Senior Center Director, who may or may not be listening. She has been coming to some of our sessions, and I strongly encourage her to visit us here in the council. And she may take us up on that either online or in person, but just a wonderful opportunity to meet our own residents, especially those who are doing great work with our seniors. Later that night, actually before that, I had my, I guess it's considered the interim city manager meeting, which went well. And then later that night, I had a chance to represent us at another gala, Rise Up Academy, which is a group that's doing amazing work with preschool age kids, getting them reading well above their age range before they enter school. And then on Saturday, this past Saturday, give credit to Edmonds. First, I will say I was coming down the freeway today, and I noticed that they have a creative district sign on the freeway, which is just more power to you all. But to that, they started something new this weekend, which was called Porch Fest. It was just an amazing opportunity to bring musicians, open spaces, and the city together, which we have all of that. We have open spaces, we have a lot of talent here, and I would encourage us to consider moving in that direction down the road here, probably next summer. They wanted to do it next summer. It just happened to time out this Saturday. But they were also able to gather a lot more community voices by, in the middle, if you will, of the Porch Fest, give a city presentation on really where they see Edmonds going. It was just an interesting collaboration between artists and the city, and pretty straightforward from what I could tell. I don't know what the cost was, but nonetheless, the talent is definitely in Mountlake Terrace. The open spaces are here, and the city rocks. So I imagine we'll hold our part. That is just to end on saying what was truly amazing is, of course, we know the 4th that night. I hope everyone was able to stay safe. I'm apologetic if you lost your power, but many kudos out to PUD for doing the best work they possibly could to get the power cleaned up, and anybody who was out there cleaning streets or cleaning up their property or helping out their neighbors, thank you as well. That was quite the windstorm that we had, and just a reminder of the convergence zone that we live in. End of my report.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Council. Just going back to the 26th, had a meeting with Snohomish County tomorrow, steering committee, where we're talking about, of course, the comp plan update, which you'll be hearing a lot more about over the next couple of years as we work toward adopting that. And while it's, this is a major, just a reminder, this is a major update that is due to our everybody's comp plan by the end of 2024. However, because it's a major update and a lot of big changes are coming, we need to start looking at doing that early next year in the process, and working together with our planning commission to put together the best comp plan and vision for our community as possible. Got a lot of work to do, a lot of visioning to do to get there, and working with our community to make sure that we are putting together the kind of community that we want to see in the years to come over the next 20, 30, 40 years. Another piece, an important piece that we were talking about, of course, is housing. We have, as part of the comp plan update, we have a lot of work to do. And one of the things we need to recognize, and we were required by state law to accommodate, plan for and accommodate the housing needs for all economic segments. And what that means for us is we've got 3,000 additional people that we're going to have to plan to accommodate, which means about 1,500 more units than we need to plan for, about which 50% needs to be for all economic segments, including 80% or less median income. 50%, so 750 units that are affordable to people with a median income of 80% or less. So think about how that's going to change our community and how we're going to plan and accommodate that growth coming in the next couple of years. That's going to be a huge job that we're going to need to undertake, and a lot of planning that's going to need to take place working with us and our community and the Planning Commission. So just, again, reminder of the heavy lifting that we're going to need to be doing in addition to our South County Fire. The comp plan update is going to be a big piece of what we need to be looking at for next year. Just for those of you that, I think I mentioned in a previous report, but for those of you that knew Cynthia Pruitt, she did retire. She was the executive director of the Snohomish County Tomorrow. Snohomish County Tomorrow is now looking for a new executive director and hope to have someone in place early part of next year, just like us. We're kind of looking for our city manager, and hopefully in the next early part of next year we'll have someone in place. Okay, the next day is October 27th, Puget Sound Regional Council Executive Board meeting. We adopted the Regional Transportation Improvement Plan, which is the region-wide transportation improvement plan. Just like we have our own here in the city, we have a regional one for 2023 through 2026. It invested $5.4 billion total, of which $1.75 billion was federal funds. Federal funds coming from the feds coming to our region that we then distributed. We also talked about climate change and the implementation strategy, and how greenhouse gas emissions play a role and what kind of steps are necessary for us to meet our goals region-wide. And that's going to be another part of our comp plan update, by the way, is climate change and how we're going to address that here in our community and reduce greenhouse, do our part in reducing greenhouse emissions. We also had a presentation on the Regional Transportation Plan Performance Dashboard and looking at that, again, region-wide, our transportation needs and planning for transportation, and a dashboard that kind of helps us envision how we're going to grow and how we're going to get people from point A to point B throughout the region. Again, Puget Sound region is Snohomish County, Pierce County, King County, and Kitsap County. All right, so then later that day on the 27th, had Zeke's Pizza ribbon cutting. Welcome, Zeke's Pizza. We're excited to have you here. And there were 4 of us on the council that made it to that may not have mentioned it. So Councilmember Ryan, Councilmember Sonmore, myself, and Mayor Matsumoto Wright were all at the ribbon cutting, and we were excited to welcome them to our community and have them serving pizza and all the other great treats that they offer for us. So be sure to stop by if you haven't. Then on the 3rd, November 3rd, Puget Sound Regional Council Growth Board meeting, Growth Management Policy Board meeting. So again, we were talking about, of course, what do you think? Housing, because it is a key issue that we are needing to address region-wide, not just here in Mountlake Terrace, but region-wide. We are facing some huge challenges that we need to address. So we were looking at the housing incentives and tools that, again, and the survey, for those of you that don't know, we've had a housing innovation program that provides a number of different tools and model ordinances and programs that are available region-wide. We've had that for several years. I was involved with that in developing that 15 years ago. Now we are in surveying each of the jurisdictions to figure out who's doing what, which jurisdictions are utilizing the different tools. So it's a great tool that we have available to us as we're looking at our housing plans. What are other jurisdictions doing? What's working in other jurisdictions? And what can we look at doing better here in Mountlake Terrace? So we want to be sure to take a look at that program that's available. Also, we're in the process of region-wide doing a housing survey of the public and public information to identify how does the public feel about housing and the needs. And by the way, just in an open-ended question, when we talk about what are the most important issues that we're facing statewide? Usually transportation, economy, education, public safety are the number 1, number 2, number 3 issues. Right now, housing and homelessness are tied for first place with 37% each, followed by cost of living and of course inflation, and public safety are down at 30%. So those are the key issues that we're facing, and so it's not just us, as we've talked about it here on this council, recognizing the need to address housing, but the public is expecting us to take action and address this crisis that we're all facing. They see this crisis, they're feeling it, and they expect us to take action. More on that when we have the finalized results, but I just wanted to give you the heads up that's coming. But anyway, later that day, November 3rd, we have the council work session, and then earlier today, before this meeting, we had, the mayor and I had our monthly meeting with the city manager, acting city manager, and interim city manager, I guess assistant city manager. So it was a great meeting. We look forward to talking with you all about the upcoming steps with the budget over the next week. So thank you very much. That was the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Okay, so for my report, let's see, starting with October 19th, I went to the ribbon cutting for the Linwood Zip Car ribbon cutting, and that is basically they're just trying this out with community transit, and it basically is a Uber service that is going to just cost the amount of a Orca Pass. So $2.50 gets you a ride on a zip car. I really, really want that to happen in Mountlake Terrace. So hopefully this will be a success and they can expand it. On the 20th of October, I went to the Master Builders Housing Solutions Breakfast, and I was on the panel with some other people. Jennifer Robinson, City of Bellevue Council Member, Nate Naring, Snohomish County Council Member, Peter Kwan, Mayor Pro Tem of SeaTac, and Trevor Johnson of Blackwood Homes. And the keynote speaker was our Lieutenant Governor, Denny Heck. So I'm wondering, how the heck did I get on that panel? But it was a fabulous, fabulous meeting, and we didn't quite get to all the housing solutions, but I did bring Mountlake Terrace up quite a bit. Later that day, we went to the Valorum Cottage tour. And so for those who were lucky enough to get a tour from the builder, we saw what middle housing could look like when done right. On the 22nd, a Saturday, I attended our resident Kathy Jackson's actual 100th birthday. And it was at our Time Out Burger, and she had they closed the whole place down for her family and friends. And on the 27th, I attended the Board of Health Executive Committee meeting, and later on that day, the Zeke's Pizza ribbon cutting, which was, that whole Terrace station is just going to be an amazing place. I think somebody like Zeke's Pizza, and I really hope to see a coffee shop come in there, hopefully. They have people that'll be ordering from them, just not even a block away. It's right there. And so I think that they're going to be doing well, hopefully. On the 1st of November, I attended the AWC Housing, this was a one-on-one with the AWC Housing Solutions group that I'm on. On the 2nd of November, I attended the South County Mayors, and that would just be the South Snohomish County Mayors, and we share ideas and talk about what we're doing in our cities. On the 3rd, I attended the Dawson Place Luncheon. I was invited by Pam Daniels, who used to be our county clerk and is now president, and I was just amazed at what Dawson's Place does for the people that they help. And later that day, I attended the Community Transit Board meeting. And then on the 4th, I attended the Seashore Transportation Forum. And we were talking about the one voice from Seashore Transportation to the state legislature on our transportation needs. And that is the end of my report. So next is the city manager's report, and I don't know who's going to give this one.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, it's a pleasure to be here on day one of my time with you as your interim city manager. It's been a busy day for me. I spent a good part of it with the assistant city manager, who had been the interim city manager, Stephen Clifton, as he's preparing to go over the budget presentation to you this evening, which is a big deal in the course of city milestones as you prepare for your biennium. Again, since this was day one for me, I don't want to use the phrase "new kid on the block," but I did figure out how to get in and out of the front door, and I did figure out where restrooms were, and so I'm ahead of the game in that respect. I did spend some quality time in an introductory meeting with City Hall staff, which was very pleasing to interact with very capable and qualified and spirited employees who work here at City Hall. And I'll be meeting tomorrow with the leadership team as I continue my orientation moving towards day two with the city of Mountlake Terrace. I'm also pleased to have been in contact with the search and recruitment consultant who's gearing up to take Mountlake Terrace through its city manager selection and recruitment process, and we'll be kicking off a formal schedule, and I'll be keeping all of you posted within the next few days. So that's a fairly brief report, but that was day one in the life of your new interim city manager. Very pleased to be here.
Thank you. This is Andrew's first day, so I... Thank you very much. This is Andrew's first day, so, and I didn't know if he was ready to give a report, but you did. Thank you very much. All right. So next on our agenda is a public hearing on proposed 10-year waste management agreement. That will be Phil Williams.
Good evening, Mayor Matsumoto Wright, Mayor Pro Tem Wall, and council members. Phil Williams, Interim Public Works Director. I'm joined here by Marcella Manabusen. I think you met her on the 13th of October when we briefed you on the terms of this proposed 10-year waste services collection contract that we're asking you to enter into with Waste Management Incorporated of Washington. Pete Stavros, he's the operations manager for the local or sort of regional office in Woodinville. So if they have questions that you can stump me with, which wouldn't be too hard, I think we can cover those tonight. I thought I'd run through just a much briefer PowerPoint than what we had on the 13th of October, a little less detail, and then open it up for a public hearing and afterwards see what questions you might have if that works for you. So in terms of just the agenda for this brief PowerPoint, talk just a little bit about the history of solid waste services collection in Mountlake Terrace with Waste Management of Washington. We'll go over the proposed contracts terms, service levels, and just a brief comment about the price inflator, which gets to be a pretty important issue in a 10-year contract at a minimum, although there are two-year possible extensions if the city wanted to take advantage of them, so it could be up to 14 years. So the price inflator gets to be pretty important. And then seek city council feedback and discussion after that. You've seen these before. I've got a fly, excuse me, little insect problem. You saw these, I'm sorry. You saw these last month. The first column you can probably ignore. That's the current contract. But focusing on the second and third columns, which are what we're considering making a decision on potentially tonight. It's a new 10-year contract, would start on the 8th of November this year, and then, of course, go to the 8th of November in 2032. The first year rate increase would be fixed at either 15 or 22%. I think in our discussion last month, there seemed to be a tentative agreement that we would go with the 15%, followed by a 7% increase this second year for a number of reasons that we discussed, not the least of which is the inflator does change if you go with the lower percentage, but when you work out the details on that, it doesn't appear to make a great deal of difference over the first 10 years of the contract. And I think it's nice for our customers to get a lower rate increase in the first year. The rates are increasing because there's been an accumulation of new costs for our service provider that have not kept pace with the current inflator that we've had for the last 8 years. That contract ran from 14 to 22. That plus a really big one was the cost of processing the recyclables that our community produces and are picked up by Waste Management. The huge change in the quality of those recycled materials going to market in terms of the allowable contaminants that by percentage that they can accept and that we can market When all of that was going to China, which was the case in the last contract, their requirements weren't as high as they are today. They dramatically changed them. So Waste Management's been scrambling to find domestic markets for almost all of these materials, and the level of contamination is, the acceptable level of contamination is very, very low. And that requires more time and effort and money to produce those products. So that's another reason costs are going up. That said, getting to service levels in the second row there, option one was just to maintain current service levels. Primarily that affects the organics collection, whether it's every other week or weekly. Option two, though, was to go to a subscription service for organics, which would save those customers who don't take the service about $8 per month. But I think the feeling was that having organics collection services available to everyone was the way that we wanted to go. And then the other thing to think about when you ponder that is that the new state law will require by 2027, the beginning of 2027, that all communities over 25,000, which we surely will be by then, have to have organics collection provided. So it would make little sense to stop it and then start it again a short while later. Talking a little bit about the vehicles, there's a major upgrade here that would take place when we sign this contract. The older CNG-powered, commercial CNG-powered trucks would be changed, and they would order new CNG trucks that are capable of being fueled by renewable natural gas, which they produce themselves at their landfills. Obviously, if you have a landfill cell that's capped, it sits there with all those organics and just cooks in an anaerobic environment, produces, well, chiefly methane, but other things as well. That gas can be collected and cleaned up, and it's a useful fuel, and they will be fueling their trucks with that. So that's a step forward from a carbon emissions standpoint. I think it saves about 20% from what their trucks would normally put out. I think that's a benefit. Also, the trucks have some additional safety features. And their engines are different. They're designed differently than the previous CNG trucks we have now. They're zero emissions, or excuse me, near zero emissions would be the correct way to say that. And they're quieter, about 10 decibels quieter. I don't know how familiar you are with the sound pressure level gauges, but 10 decibels is a lot. That's about an order of magnitude in terms of sound energy of being dissipated. They're that much quieter than the diesel trucks we have now. I think our community would like that. Oops. Those services, that said, let's see, is that the right one? Hang on. Yeah. So to recap, I guess, a little bit, Waste Management proposed a 15% increase in 2023, followed by a 7% increase in 2024, as we said, to catch up with costs they've been experiencing. And then after that, there'd be an escalator built into the contract. It's currently the Consumer Price Index for all wage earners, that's CPIW, and that would be changing to an escalator that is a subset of the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, which is a larger database. There's a portion of it that applies to water, sewer, and trash businesses, and that would be the index that would be that is in the draft contract that you're considering tonight. To compare our rates, because I think there's always a desire to know where we stand and where we will stand after you get a new contract against other communities and other governments around us. It's tough to do a pure apples and apples comparison for a lot of reasons. Utility taxes in some cases are included in the rates. In some cases, they appear separately on the bill. There are different service levels to consider. We have different vendors. If you start comparing ourselves with other cities, we have certainly Waste Management, Republic Services, Recology, and so forth. It becomes important when was the contract you're trying to compare yourselves to, when was that signed? And how long ago has that been? And where are they at in the term of the contract? Because that can have a big impact on what those comparisons look like. Weekly versus biweekly service, different disposal costs. Some city may have their stuff collected and taken to a different transfer station that goes to a different disposal site that has higher tipping fees, for example, so those internal costs are not an accurate comparison with where our materials go for disposal. And then there's different container sizes, although most of them have at least a 32 or a 35-gallon can, which is pretty close, and some of them have a 45, but all of them pretty much have a 64 and a 96-gallon. So depending on your needs, of course, your costs will vary. That's a good phrase, I think. Your costs may vary. But we will do all of the next comparison chart I show you will be based on that 32 or 35-gallon container, which is the most common one by far in Mountlake Terrace that our customers have selected. And it looks like this. Starting at the top with the lowest cost of this particular set of comparators is Edmunds, as regulated by the Utilities and Transportation Commission. So they do not contract for solid waste services. This is sound disposal. Edmunds actually has 3 parts to their city, waste management services, part of it, and Republic Services, part of it. This comparison is with sound disposal. Every other week, organics is provided as a service from March to November, and then once per month from December to February. That's the only place I've seen that, at least. And although this is in my way right now, but I think that's $27.82 a month, and it ranges down from there. Shoreline, who is served by a different hauler, Recology, their price includes weekly organics at $28.86. Next is the canary yellow colored line existing Mountlake Terrace rates. That's what we have today. Tomorrow it might be different, but right now today it's $30.48 per month for all of those services, recycling, organics, and garbage. Then Mill Creek, and then the proposed Mountlake Terrace rate. That's the change you would see from $30.48 to $35.15. We'd go from the third cheapest to just above the middle of the pack there. And it kind of ranges down from there. So again, to recap, for a 35-gallon service, the increase in 2023 would be $4.57 a month, which is 22%. And then in 2024, it would go up by an additional $2.46. And then the WST inflator after that. So staff recommends the city monitor costs, performance, and customer satisfaction during the life of this next contract, and then consider the option of issuing an RFP for those services. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but you should at least begin to consider that at the right point in the term of the contract, which would be about 18 months prior to expiration in 2032. Having said that, I'd be happy to take any immediate questions. Otherwise, we can open the public hearing and talk afterwards.
Do we have any questions or comments?
I would like to ask maybe our 2 guests if they'd like to add anything at this point. Marcella? Or John? Or Peter?
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council, staff, and the community. Marcy Manabusan, I'm the contract manager for waste management, and I've been working with the community for just over 3 years now, about 3.5 years. So it's good to be back in person and to see you all. And really just wanted to thank staff for the time in working on this contract and putting this presentation together and all of that. It's been really great. We've had a lot of great discussion over the months where we've talked about the new contract and things like that. And so we just really appreciate the partnership with the city and the time. And I know it's a big decision before you this evening, and we just appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Pete Stavros. I've been with Waste Management for about 3 years now. Prior to that was UPS, and then retired out of the Air Force after a 22-year service in the military. Just want to thank you for your time this evening. Although I've only been with Waste for a little bit of time, what makes, or I guess why I was hired for the position is I have that responsiveness to not only my team, but also the communities I serve. Prior to my recent promotion, I served as the solid waste manager for Mountlake Terrace, as well as all of Snohomish County, well, the greater part of Snohomish County. In that time, I've got to learn and meet some of the citizens of your city and help them out with problems they may have faced, ultimately ending up with good service. And that's really what I'm all about. So thank you for your time. And thanks so much.
Okay, so does anyone here have any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Wall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the information. It was a great review following up on our last discussion during our work session. And thank you for the proposal that's in front of us for consideration tonight. I know it's a challenge coming together, and I know that a lot of work was put in by you and staff and Waste Management and figuring out how to bring this forward. I think we all recognize the challenges of the cost of living and inflation that's hitting us all, and at the same time, our residents are feeling it not just from this proposed increase, but everywhere else too. And it's a challenge, and it's difficult for us as a council to have to consider any kind of cost increase because we feel that impact and we feel the burden that's coming on our citizens. That said, I did want to just highlight one of the areas that I think is always, I know you guys are doing everything you can to highlight what is and is not allowed in our recyclables. And I appreciate the education. One of the things that surprised me, I guess, is an educational moment. Maybe you can spend a little bit of time educating myself, certainly. I don't know about others. But why, for instance, one thing that I have been recycling wrongly for many years is plastic bags. And plastic bags is not allowed. And the only reason I knew that is because I'm on council and I saw the information you shared with us. And so maybe you can tell us why, what is it? I mean, we're supposed to recycle plastic containers and, and other plastic things, but not bags. So what is the difference between a plastic bag and a plastic bottle that we can and cannot recycle? Why can we do one and not the other?
You want me to do it?
Go ahead.
Great question, very great question. And so there really are three things that determine if something's recyclable in our curbside programs. I want to clarify that it's for our curbside program. Can we collect it? Do we have the ability to collect it? Will it fit in our carts and go in our trucks? Can we sort it at the material recovery facility? And then is there a market for it? Is somebody going to buy it and turn it into something new? And so for plastic bags, the challenge is when it gets to our recovery facility, and I invite everybody on the council, staff, community for a tour of our facility. It's in Woodinville. It goes through a series of sorting equipment, and there are big spinning discs that pass that material through the line, and plastic bags get wrapped up in those discs, and we have to stop everything for hours to manually climb in there and clean them out. So it's that piece of it that makes plastic bags not recyclable in our program. A lot of grocery stores will take them back to recycle them. So there are other options, but for our curbside recycling, we got to meet those three things to be allowed in our program.
Well, thank you for that insight. I will, from now on, stop being part of the problem and correct that action. I hope others do as well. But thank you for the presentation and the information. Look forward to continued service in Mountlake Terrace.
I might just add there's other things that gum up that works at the MRF, the Material Recovery Facility, wire, hangers, just all that kind of stuff. Anything that has the sort of linear dimension that could wrap around that equipment, it really is a problem for them.
Okay. All right. So, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If there's no further discussion or questions, I will move to open the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is now open. Do we have any?
On paper, the only people signed up were our presenters, so they've already spoken. If anyone in the online audience would like to speak on this matter, please use your hand raise tool. Going once? Going twice? No comment.
So we have people in the audience that haven't signed in. Are there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Okay, if not, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Put a motion on the table. We'll move to adopt a new contract for comprehensive garbage, recyclables, and organics collection with the Waste Management of Washington Incorporated and authorize the city manager to sign the contract on behalf of the city.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
We have a new contract. Thank you. Okay, so next on our agenda is a proposed 2023-24 biennial budget presentation.
Ready?
Good evening.
Great. Good evening. For the record, Stephen Clifton, Assistant City Manager. Good evening to the Mountlake Terrace community, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and city staff. Tonight's presentation will consist of two parts. Part one includes general comments relating to the city manager's budget message. And during the second part of the presentation, I'll be using a PowerPoint slide format depicting information about the overall schedule of public meetings related to the 23-24 budget process, followed by highlighting council goals, how the initial presentation differs from years past, restructuring of the organizational chart, highlights and accomplishments of the 21-22 budget years, city managers recommended or supported requests from department directors related to years 2023 and 2024, significant drivers of cost increases, and lastly, budget summary and general fund balances. In accordance with state law, city staff have prepared a proposed balanced biennial budget, which provides a financial overview of city funds and activities for the ensuing 2 fiscal years. Throughout the development of the budget, the finance director and I met with department directors to discuss their capital and general fund budget needs. They, along with other city staff, collectively worked through the process of developing the budget with great thoughtfulness, and I sincerely appreciate their efforts and support in this endeavor. Overall, the financial picture for 2023 and 2024 is steady, and our administration has delivered a budget which is relatively stable through 2027, albeit the use of limited amount of ARPA funds is proposed in 2023 and 2024 in order to create a 2027 ending general fund balance of $373,410, excluding a 5% strategic contingency reserve, while at the same time adding a few necessary positions and programs or projects funded with general fund dollars. Our community has experienced considerable change over the last few years, and I, along with our executive leadership team, are proud of the positive changes initiated by the city and the city's ingenuity and resilience when faced with adversity. And of course, the City Council is to be credited with a lot of that as well. The proposed biennial budget reflects our continued drive to support a relatively high quality of life available here, while also recognizing that global, national, and regional conditions may significantly impact some of our revenue sources. Because of this uncertainty and inflationary factors, the proposed budget is limited in its growth while maintaining core responsibilities and meeting City Council goals. Within the City Manager's budget message, I will reference that the proposed budget continues the path begun in 2016 to ensure that the Council is making the community's vision happen rather than waiting for it to happen. Within the budget message narrative, readers will find how certain priorities are met. For example, life, health, safety, legal mandates, increased efficiencies, and City Council goals. The budget message also describes how the 8 goals adopted by the City Council in June of this year will be met in years 2023 and 2024. I will list the goals in a moment during the PowerPoint presentation, but in the interest of time, not describe how they're met as they are outlined within the budget message. The budget is intended to provide the City Council and the community with a broad overview of how the funds are to be spent, as well as key changes and issues. An executive summary is included within the budget, which provides a more detailed analysis of revenues, expenditures, and operating changes. So before I begin the second part of my presentation, I would like to note that we had every intention of delivering to you a printed budget book this evening, but with the power outages this weekend and the Comcast outages, we were not able to access the internet and do what we needed to do to get you a printed budget this evening. So we will be delivering you a printed budget the evening of November 9th, prior to the department directors beginning their presentations. So what you see on the screen, and the format it has been changed quite a bit from the 2021-2022 budget format. And we met as an executive leadership team. We brought on board an individual named Corbett Locke. He used to work for the city of Linwood and used to work in the finance department to help them with their budget narratives and really trying to make everything make sense. In other words, the numbers relate to the narrative and vice versa. So he has been instrumental in helping us to prepare a format and a template that all the department directors will use, so that as they go through each department's presentation, you'll begin to see a pattern being created. They'll start out with a fund, and then the organizational chart within their organization, and then the changes very similar to what I'm going to be presenting tonight. So I hope that the council notices that, and I hope that the council finds that it's a really nice format. Please let us know if any changes need to be made. We're welcome to suggestions. Okay, so tonight we have the proposed 2023-24 biennial budget presentation to the City Council this Wednesday. The meeting will be considered a special meeting because it begins at 6 p.m. And the reason is that we have a number of presentations taking place by various departments. That includes the City Council, City Manager, and Community Relations, followed by Human Resources, Finance, Information Technology, Community and Economic Development, and Public Safety. The next day, starting at 6 p.m. again, The department presentations will include parks and property management services, recreation services, which includes proposed fees, and public works. And the reason that you only see two departments on one night is because the amount of information that those two departments present is extensive, so it'll eat up a lot of time. So we try to balance out the evenings so that it doesn't go too long each night. Thursday, November 17th, will start at 7 p.m. It's a work session, and there will be a review of the 2023 property tax ordinance. That'll include a review of general operating levy, property tax resolution, a review of the emergency medical services levy resolution, and then the review of property tax ordinance. That'll be followed by a public hearing on November 21st, and the purpose of that meeting is really to adopt all the resolutions that you reviewed and considered on November 17th. There will also be an adoption of the 2023 through 2027 recreation and park fees by resolution. On Thursday, December 1st, we will once again review the 2023-2024 biennial budget ordinance. That will be preceded by the Economic Alliance Snohomish County annual report presentation and a review of the 2022 third quarter financial report. So as the council is reviewing and considering the budget, we are also trying to squeeze in a number of items onto the agenda where we can to make sure that everything is reviewed and considered by the council before the end of the year. On Monday, December 5th, we'll have a regular meeting, and that'll be a public hearing on and adoption of the 2023-24 proposed budget. On December 6th, that is being set aside. That's a tentative contingency date, just in case the council doesn't approve the budget on December 5th and you need a little more time. We've tentatively scheduled that date for that purpose. On Monday, December 15th, we will have a few presentations related to professional services agreements for our governmental affairs consultants, and, also the public defender. And then on Monday, November 19th, you'll actually, probably by consent, approving the professional services agreements that we present the preceding council meeting. And then, if needed, we can also place adoption of the 2023-2024 biennial budget ordinance on that date as well, and that's only a contingency date. So this slide here relates to our new format, and it explains what the budget purpose is, and that's to provide a link between the goals of the City Council and the manner in which those goals are achieved. I've inserted the council goals from the City Council that you adopted in June of 2022, and I have those listed here, and I know you're very, very familiar with those, so I won't list each one verbally. Regarding the presentation formatting and consistency, the city administration worked to create a template, as I mentioned earlier, for delivering a unified look and formatting of the presentations. The changes include the first slides will be related to department funds and the organizational chart, so you can see the organization of each department, the mission of each department, highlights and accomplishments in 2021 and 2022, department personnel, that'll be in a table format, so you'll actually see the positions listed, whether they're full-time, part-time, etc. Major changes in programs and projects for years 2023 and 24, and then also the financial summary. And I should note that as we prepare these presentations, as I mentioned in a presentation on a different topic about a week or two ago, you have to assume that there are individuals who are not familiar with the budget process, nor have they ever been involved in a budget process. And so we're trying to lay this out so that as we go through the process, it's as easily understandable as a very complicated process can be. This is the city's organizational chart. We did a little restructuring and formatting, and collectively the executive leadership team reviewed this, and this seems to make a lot of sense for us. So what we did is we moved the assistant city manager, city clerk, community relations, and human resources off to the side of the city manager to the right. And then what we did is we put finance as its own department off to the left and the services it provides. And then we also put information technology by itself as well, because it really functions more as a department. You might recall that there used to be an administrative services division, but collectively we agreed that just didn't make sense the way the organization is actually structured. And so the way that it's laid out here, we think makes a little more sense. And then you'll see a line going straight down the middle of the organizational chart, and that relates to fire services, and those are dashed because they are contracted, dashed lines. So now I'd briefly like to just describe for you some of the highlights and accomplishments for years 2021 and 2022. And we worked diligently along with the City Council to implement major projects and programs. Of course, one of the most significant highlights relates to opening a new City Hall, expanded police station, the Jerry Smith Town Center Plaza. And how that relates to the City Council goals, it ties directly to responsible government and a vibrant town center and economic vitality. So what you'll find as the department directors give their presentations, they will actually follow this format as well. And so the highlights and accomplishments, whether they be in 21 or 22, or the planned goals and objectives of 23 and 24, they will actually list the goals and how they relate to what they're presenting. We also completed the Main Street project, Phase 1, in 2021. There was implementation of the Parks and Recreation projects, both in 2021 and 2022. I say see the November 10th presentation because Jeff Betts will actually give a lot of detail on that Thursday evening. And that relates directly to active and passive parks that provide a variety of recreational opportunities. And then also implementation of the Town Center Plan and marketing. And although the City Council adopted the Town Center Sub-Area Plan update in 2019, subsequently, city staff has been marketing the Town Center extensively in documents such as the Puget Sound Business Journal, 425 Magazine, and other venues. And that relates to a vibrant town center and economic vitality. The next three slides relate to proposed changes from 2021, 2022 budget, and how they tie to the general and ARPA funds, as well as other funds as well later on. So these requests come from either myself or department directors. And so what you're seeing on the next three slides are my recommendations to the City Council. And then what years they're funded, sometimes one time, sometimes 23 and 24. And then the fund that is being used to pay for those services, the program or a project. So the first one is contracting with a consultant to assist the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Commission with work plans, events, and meetings. We set aside $30,000 in 2023 and 2024. And we are recommending that ARPA funds be used for that purpose. And I should note, I'll just provide an update because I did earlier with Mayor Matsumoto Wright and Mayor Wall, or Mayor Pro Tem Wall. The council had asked us how much we have in ARPA funding and had been asking about the balance. And so when we looked into the ARPA funds, for some reason we could only find the first deposit in 21 and not the one in 22. Jake Johnston, our federal government relations specialist, actually reached out to the Department of Commerce and Office of Financial Management, was able to connect me with a woman at OFM who provided me the date on which the second payment was made. And then our staff, Sandy, along with Janella, looked into the finance spreadsheets and found out that it had been deposited into the wrong fund, but it was deposited nonetheless. So the good news is all $5.9 million was deposited. After the deposits, the council issued a check to the Volunteers of America for $500,000. So you have $5.4 million in ARPA funding available. And the amount of funding, you'll see that at the end of the third slide, I'll mention how much I'm recommending using from ARPA funds. And it totals around $500,000, but I didn't want to get ahead of the council and commit all of it, but I do have some recommendations on use for some of the ARPA funds. Funding for information technology, strategic plan, and structural evaluation consultant. I know that information technology has been a high priority for the City Council, so the goal here is to issue a request for proposal. It's already been prepared, at least a draft has, and so we'll be refining that. And what we'd like to do is issue the request for proposal, review proposals, and bring on a consultant to look at our equipment, to look at our how we are structured, how we are staffed, and it's supposed to be a 5-year plan. And that's also ARPA. And the direct nexus there is that what COVID did for a lot of agencies is it really accentuated and accelerated the need for more technology, particularly when we started getting into remote conducting remote meetings and conducting more business online. So there is a clear nexus there, definitely. Creation of a communications manager. And what we are proposing here is we currently have a communications specialist. And what we're proposing is the creation of a communities manager, but not funding the community specialist position. The community specialist would move into the communications manager position, and that ties to another recommendation that I'll be making to you as part of the Parks and Rec area, and I'll kind of explain how those two tie together. In the police department, we have e-bikes, purchase of 2 bikes with a rack, training, uniforms, maintenance. One-time funding, $30,000 for 2023, and it goes down to $15,000 for 2024. General fund. New community services officer. What Pete is proposing is to combine 2 part-time cadet positions into 1 new community services officer. And so what that does is the difference between those is an added $13,516 in year 2023 and $13,921 in 2024. And we're proposing to use ARPA funding for that as well. Reaching out to a lot of cities, there are a lot of cities that are using ARPA funding for public safety purposes. Human resources, I've talked with several council members about this, but there is $40,000 in the budget for a consultant to conduct a salary survey, most likely in 2023. Parks and Recreation, $123,000 is requested in 2023. This is one-time funding. This relates to the Child Care Stabilization Grant and Workforce Grant. The city would match quite a bit more money than 123, and we would use this for recruitment and retention for existing child care staffing expenses, and we're proposing on using ARPA for that as well. A lot of the child care funding was significantly impacted during 2 years of the past 2 years of the pandemic. Adding a special event coordinator position, this would add $84,708 for year 23, $87,249 for year 24. We are proposing on using ARPA funding for that just for 23 and 24, and then it would be funded by the general fund thereafter. And the reason that we're proposing ARPA funds is that for 2 years, our special events, as you know, and community events and everything that happens at the Parks and Rec has been significantly impacted. So we collectively agree that we should bring someone on to really coordinate these events, reach out to the community, try to find some additional funding from sponsors, find volunteers. I mean, this is an extensive amount of work that needs to be done by someone. And as you know, Ken Courtmanch and Virginia were 2 of the key people, and a lot of other Parks and Rec staff as well that worked on that. And so instead of having a communications manager and a communications specialist and an events coordinator, that's why we're proposing on not funding the communications specialist. And instead, the special events coordinator would assist with communications and work directly with the communications manager. So we feel that would be a real good use of city resources while still, not adding too many positions. Dedicated scholarship fund, ages 0 to 17, for camp and classes, currently limited to $50 a quarter. We're proposing $10,000 for both years. Again, we are requesting ARPA funding for that. Parks and recreation programs were significantly hit in 21 and 22, and you'll find out that when I provide an overview of significant cost drivers, I'll kind of explain to you how much needs to be transferred into Parks and Rec in a moment. Independence Day celebration, $20,000 from the general fund for both years. Toro 72-inch rotary mower, much needed, $35,000 for year 2023. That's the general fund. Billy goat leaf collector, a much needed piece of equipment, $30,000 in year 2023. Camera van with extension ability, and I'll show you a picture of what that looks like in a moment. $380,000, that comes out of Fund 410, some of the utility funds. Emergency response trailer, $7,000, that comes out of Fund 411, not the general fund. 30-inch asphalt zipper, that's a $180,000 piece of equipment one time in 2023. If you look off to the right, you'll see the funds and how I broke that down with the input of Public Works staff. 111, that's money coming from the general fund. So 18,000 or 10% of that would be funded by the general fund. Public Works shelf stock. What's been happening during the pandemic is that it's been very, very difficult for Jesse Hoffman and Public Works operations staff to get equipment. So what they would like to do is get ahead of much needed replacement pieces of equipment and order it in bulk and not have to wait 4 months or 10 months or 18 months to try to get a few pieces at a time. So they'd like to stock up, and that's what you see, 50 and 51,000 for years 23 and 24 respectively. And only 10,000 of that amount would come from the general fund. Diagnostic vehicle electronic scanner, one time in 2024, 10,000, non-general fund. New maintenance worker position 1, city staff asked for, Public Works asked for 2 positions, but because they're being funded out of the general fund, you might feel differently, but at least for now, we're only recommending 1 position, 89 and 96,000 for years 23 and 24 respectively. So collectively, what this does is it only adds 3 positions, and that's the net add, and we feel they're much needed positions. And then mechanic overlap, and what this relates to is that our mechanic at the shops is retiring, so we'd like to bring someone on board for a year to work with this individual and really get a good understanding of how the shop operates. And so that when the existing mechanic retires, this individual is well-trained, up to speed, and doesn't have a learning curve. And so you'll see 104,000 for year 23, but in 2024, that should actually be a negative 15,000 because they'll actually be making less money than what the existing person is. So in 2024, you'll actually see a little bit of a savings. So total ARPA funding for year 2023 is 336,000, and 2024, 141,000. So again, I definitely did not want to get ahead of the council and commit too many dollars, but at least I thought we should offer to you what we think would be a good use of ARPA funding. So these are 2 pieces of equipment that I mentioned earlier. The one on the left is the van, and the one on the left is the zipper. And so this will help our staff work more efficiently and work more effectively. So this slide that you see before you is one of the most significant slides of the entire presentation because it relates to significant drivers to cost increases. And I'll just briefly explain these, and I'm almost actually at the end of my presentation. South County fire charges in 2023 are estimated at $3.5 million. That's an increase of 17.2%, or $514,000 higher than in 2022. In 2024, that's forecasted to be another $160,000 above 2023, or a 4.5% increase. We did receive a call, and we're notified that a bill will be forthcoming in the first quarter of 2023 in the amount of $216,000, and that is for retroactive pay. And that's something we do have to pay. So if you look at that amount of money, that's about $890,000 above 2022. So almost $1 million. Our WCIA insurance, in 2022, we budgeted $560,000, but we actually are ending up having to pay $618,000 this year. So that's a 10.46% increase. In 2023, WCIA is requesting $912,899. So that's a 47.49% increase above what we're paying in 2022. But there's more. If you look at 2022 paid plus 2023 rate increase, it's actually about 57.95% above what we budgeted in 2022. And the next one relates to Parks and Recreation. They will need a general fund transfer to become whole, $450,000 more for year 2023 and $200,000 for year 2024. For streets, they'll need a general fund transfer of $208,000 in 2023 and $190,000 in 2024, for a total of $398,000. Last slide. Related to the property tax increase, we are recommending, and the budget includes a proposed and necessary 1% increase in property taxes as allowed by the Washington State Constitution. This is driven in part by unusually high increases in service charges, insurance rates, unprecedented inflation, supplemented funds, etc., that continues to occur and impact departmental budgets to varying degrees. As far as wages and benefits, the budget does include a proposed 3% cost of living adjustment for non-represented employees in 2023 and 2024, and preliminarily 2.5% per year through 2028. By comparison, earlier forecast and contracted amounts of 4% were given for the Police Guild and Teamsters 3%. And then as far as the general fund balances, you'll note that for year 2023, there's a general fund balance of $4,182, and I'd just like to briefly describe how that compares to previous years. In 2019, there was a $4.3 million ending fund balance, 2020, $6 million, 2021, $3.5 million, 2022 projected is 4.6. So we're about in the ballpark of all the averages of the preceding 4 years. For 2024, that's 3.147 million, 2025, 2.184 million, 26, it goes down to 1.73 million, and 27, 66, and then we go into the red in 2028. Technically, we are required to bring you a balanced budget for our biennial budget, but we always forecast and look out at least 6 years to see how we might be doing later on. So I wanted to provide those numbers to you as well. So I just want to summarize. The issue of retention of employees has been discussed at the council level and during monthly city manager, council member meetings. As you know, there are several vacancies, some of whom left citing increases in pay at their new places of employment as the reason they look elsewhere. After looking at the existing salary schedule and conducting an informal survey of other cities' comparable non-represented positions, there are 4 positions that stand out as needing salary adjustments. I'll give you an example of 2. Looking at the information technology positions, looking at comparable positions in other cities, we identified a 17% and a 22% below comparables at the low end of the range and the high end of the range. And one of the positions is vacant, but we do realize to recruit that person, the salary does need to be increased. And it's not just that, but we actually just looked at the comparable responsibilities, and that position, when established, really should have been on par with the Parks Project Manager. And for some reason, that position was making $700 less a month than the Parks Project Manager, and the responsibilities are comparable. And in fact, the other position really, with the amount of federal funds they have to deal with and all the construction projects they have to help manage, it just didn't make, just looking at the salary schedule, that really stood out. And so I think that just needs to be adjusted. And then also the building official as well. For some reason, it was making less than the senior planner, and that just stood out. Just looking at the salary schedule, forget about the person, forget about the rate or how much they're making currently. It's, you just look at the salary range, and they should be flipped. And it's also less than comparable positions around. So there's 4 positions that we're looking at adjusting, and Leslie Choate will be putting a salary ordinance together, and she will be attaching that to the budget later on, so you'll be able to see that as well. And I think all of this really plays into retention. So in conclusion, I would just like to thank and recognize the City Council and our valued employees for their exceptional commitment and responsiveness to the community's needs, particularly during the pandemic, which upended daily life and changed the way many organizations operate. As you know, the city has recently experienced changes in a few leadership positions, and city staff have shown an ability to come together and build a budget that is both prudent and inspired. Although near-term economic uncertainty has suspended my recommendations for supporting all requested positions, the budget ensures core programs and investments continue for at least another 2 years and beyond. During the coming biennium, the organization will continue to build on community priorities of safety, legal mandates, finding efficiencies, and carrying out the city goals of financial stewardship, communication with the community, and economic development and care of facilities and infrastructure. So with that, I respectfully will be submitting the budget formally in print form to the City Council on Wednesday. So with that, I am more than happy to take any questions from the City Council, but if you have detailed questions related to specific positions or departments, you'll get a lot of detail on Wednesday and Thursday. So, you know, that would be a really good time, I think, to ask the department directors themselves, only because the people who know the positions and the budgets and how they function much more than I or the department directors themselves. And I really have to give a lot of credit to Janella, who, despite having been here only a few months, she has really pulled this thing together, and her team has worked so hard in providing all the directors numbers that we keep requesting, and the directors. We had to pull this thing together quite quickly because of the gap between the previous finance director, the city manager leaving, the city clerk leaving, the public works director leaving, and new staff coming on board. And somehow, some way, we did it. So almost. We're almost there.
Well, there is one question that we have, and the numbers on the very last page, the numbers on that you were reading and the ones that we were just given. Yes, that page at the very bottom. So which one are we supposed to be looking at?
It is?
Yeah, the one you're in your hands. This is the new.
Okay, because the one that's.
Yeah, the ones in your hands. Yeah.
Yeah, that would.
I like that better.
Thank you. I'll get rid of this.
2023 will be, whoops.
Yeah. For the public, 23 will be 4.24 million. That's correct, right? Yep. Yeah. So for the public, 2023 will be 4.2 million. 2024 will be 3.2 million, 25, year 25, 2.3 million, 2026, 1.376 million, 2027, 373,000, and then 2028, that's when it goes into the red. And that actually is less than what I had on the screen.
All right, so now we know. Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Really? Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I mean, well, first of all, I want to thank you and congratulate you for pulling it all together, because recognizing the circumstances of the staff turnover and change and challenges that were left in pulling it all together, and the timing, well done. And we really appreciate you being able to present this to us tonight and be able to, obviously, we're not going to be able to spend a whole lot of time. It doesn't make any sense to spend a lot of time really delving into the numbers tonight because we don't have them yet. And so it'll be really Wednesday and Thursday that I think we'll spend more time looking into the details and trying to figure out what you were able to put in place and present to us for us to be able to digest and put our heads around how it all comes together and putting the pieces together to and getting to the numbers and the dollars and funding the programs and the services that we're looking to provide, and trying to figure out how we're going to deal with the growing costs of government and providing services and quality services to our community, but at the same time respecting the funds, the revenues that our community generates to be able to pay for these programs, and respecting the challenges that we're all facing in our own lives, personal lives, and in trying to pay for everything, and making sure that we're not adding additional burdens to our citizens. And part of the concern that, of course, we're going to have, and we're going to pay a little more attention to this, I think, over the coming weeks, is, being able to pay for it now over the next 2 years is one thing, but looking at the cost drivers and the increasing costs, and, we can't find ourselves in 2027, 28, running in the red. And so we're going to have to figure that out. We're going to need to spend some time, maybe, obviously looking at the numbers and figuring out how, is there something, what do we need to do now? But obviously I think as Councilmember Ricardo pointed out earlier, South County Fire plays a huge role in this. And I think that's something we're going to need to spend some time looking at and considering a little bit in this budget, especially recognizing the long-term costs, so that we're adopting a responsible budget while at the same time recognizing the cost drivers and challenges we're going to face in the future. One of the questions, immediate questions I do have that makes maybe a little sense to ask about tonight, rather than spending time on Wednesday and Thursday night, is one of the cost drivers you mentioned is Washington WCIA insurance. How much of that is, just looking back to that page, how much of that cost increase is based on just general rate increases versus, is there any piece of that that is driven by our requests, I guess, or when we're just like every insurance, if you say, hey, I need to cover my car or a house or something, they then subsequently increase our insurance rate, right? So how much of that is being driven by what we have been requesting or needing to have funded versus just general rate increases?
I think a lot of it has to do, is this on? Okay. Janella Lewis speaking. I think a lot of it has to do with the rate increases. So they look at cities around the area, and then they compare them, and then they put them in a pool, and then, figure out their rates that way. And a lot of it has to do with the vehicles that we have also. So the big increase, the big driver was property, was what went up so high in there.
Okay, and so obviously there's, what kind of considerations can we as a city take? Is there a way to reduce that, or is it just, this is just a cost increase that we have no control over? There's no way to increase our out of pocket, like you do with your car insurance and stuff like that. Okay, well, I can't afford my car insurance at this rate, so what if I increase my, out of pocket costs or something like, whatever, right? There's just nothing we can do about this cost driver.
I can
right?
check into it, but I don't think so. I think they sent this standard letter to
Yeah, okay.
every city municipality, so.
Welcome to your new rates. Don't ask any questions because there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can ask though.
Okay.
I'll ask them.
All right, very good. I appreciate it. And again, obviously, we'll be spending a lot more time over this over the next week particularly, and I'll have a lot more questions and notes here that I've made for us to discuss as we go along through each of the different budgets. But I appreciate the presentation tonight and the recognition of all the work that's gone into it, and look forward to working with you to get a responsible budget adopted in the next couple of weeks.
Councilmember Wall, if I may just add regarding WCIA, having worked with them for many years, as was already stated, it's a pool of a number of cities, and so they do compare rates and exposure and experiences that cities have gone through, but they're very willing to do audits of cities and provide comparative data, and so it would be from a customer service standpoint, they would be more than happy to share with us more information about how we compare to others that might help answer your question.
Okay. Well, I guess we look forward to the other two presentations later on this week. Thank you very much. All right, so next on our agenda is new business. Does anyone have any new business? Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Not last meeting, but 2 meetings ago, it was brought to our attention that several Snohomish County cities were joining a coalition to address public safety concerns. And I wonder if anyone delved into that a little bit more. And I think since we now have, one moment, 16 cities have joined, I think we need to have a discussion as soon as possible on this. And some of the cities are like Edmonds, Linwood, et cetera, Sultan. So I'd propose if, although it's going to be budget oriented, our Thursday the 17th meeting might be a good time for discussion on that, since most of this week's going to be budget stuff. We do have something to talk about on the 17th, but I think the nitty-gritty is going to be on the 9th and 10th. So I don't know if you'd like to have discussion. I think the sooner the better, because I think everybody joined last month.
Yes.
So I don't know if we want to talk about that.
You read my mind because I already have it written here.
And you can just Google in Snohomish County Mayor's Coalition, and then it'll link you to another site called keepourcitysafe.com for a full list of members and
So
what the coalition is about.
The question that we had here was that we didn't have enough information. And so now you were supposedly sent a copy of, you were forwarded a copy of what we all got. And I looked that up again today. And I was hoping to bring this up to see if we had looked at it and are ready to make a decision. Our police department would really like us to, because they think it's a very, very good idea. So hopefully we can talk. Can we talk about it at the next one? Next meeting?
I don't know if, did we want to discuss it now or
You
wait?
want to discuss it now? Can we do so?
Or put it on the agenda.
Put it on the agenda. Did everybody read what was sent to them? And is it something that is something that you can all agree to support? Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I would support Councilmember Ryan's suggestion that we put it on the agenda for the 17th so that we have time to review and come ready to have a conversation in depth and get ready
Okay,
to
so
vote
this
on
will
it.
go on the 17th. All right. Did you have something to say? Anyone else for, go ahead, Councilmember McCardle.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Due to the demands of my new job as a middle school principal and the fact that I'm going to go back to school and begin earning an administrative credential, I feel the need that I must step away from serving on the Mountlake Terrace City Council. Tonight, I'm announcing my resignation of the Mountlake Terrace City Council, position number 3. If the council will allow, I would like to serve during the budget process, making my last day as a member of the City Council the last meeting date of this year on December 19th, 2022. I have thoroughly enjoyed serving the city, but need to establish a better work-life balance. And I just thank you for your understanding.
I'm speechless. But I know you have to do what you have to do. And so you're going to be till the end of this year?
Yes. If
All right.
you'll allow me.
Oh, I don't know.
Can we allow it longer?
Well, who do I ask? And you're sending this letter into the city, the rest of the council and the city.
Yes.
So I am looking at,
Madam Mayor, is your question about a process for how to?
process and what do I do right now? Do I accept this resignation?
We say no.
No, I think the council member has a right to resign on the date of his choosing, and there's no question about that. The council has a certain series of steps to take after that to fill the seat. But I don't think any action has to be taken prior to the council member's resignation.
So I will accept this letter and send it hand it over to the city. And I just want to say that I remember giving Doug McCardle a call one day, and it was a Thursday, and I asked him if he wanted to run for city council. The last day to sign up was Friday the next day. And I picked him up and I drove him to Everett. And that was, I don't know how many years ago.
2010.
Wow. And you have been a real level-headed person, looking at both sides of just about everything on our city council for all these years. So we will accept this, and I'm glad you made it to the end of the year, not to the end of this month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we call you principal? Vice principal?
Principal.
Principal. All right. I had a list of things here. Yeah, there's several, there's another thing that we need to follow up on, and that would be the other ordinance that we didn't vote on, talk about last week, or was it last week? So we need to follow up on the trespass ordinance. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to PUD. Our neighborhood, my neighborhood, usually gets the brunt of the power outages, but lately our neighborhood seems to be the best one, and everything around us has gone dark. And And I really felt for the citizens who didn't have power in Mountlake Terrace, but we had it better than the rest of the county. So really, yes, there are quite a few people without power. And when you think about it, it's getting really cold out there. So I just hope that, I know PUD is working overtime, and now they have, 4 other crews coming in. So I know they're doing everything they can. And I just wanted to thank them for all their efforts. Anyone else for new business? Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to formally request the 19th Saturday as a potential council day, or whatever it is when you call it a special meeting, for Ivy League. They are inviting us to come and join them at noon at Veterans Park, I would say on the 58th Street side, near the benches. Be easier to serve lunch there. And I think that is all I needed to do. Maybe we need a vote. I don't know how that works when you ask for a special meeting. If we have to agree, then I would request that we take a formal vote to see if we can make that happen.
Shall we ask who plans to be there on the 19th? Is it the 19th? So that if we have more than 4, and that will be at noon, and we meet at the Veterans Park. Okay. Well, I was planning. Oh, I guess we have more than 4. I guess we better post that. All right, Councilmember Ryan?
If I may, even though there would be 4 of us or more, if we're not discussing anything we're going to be voting on, it's not necessary to have a meeting, a special meeting notice. Thank you.
We're going to be pulling weeds.
Unless we're going to vote on the weeds.
Yeah, I would clarify, if you wanted to pull weeds, you'd want to be there between 9 and noon. At noon, basically, the Ivy League wants to be able to show you the work. They also want to ask questions about the changes coming to the park itself. So you have options.
Okay.
I'd love to have you there pulling weeds.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will park staff, Jeff, be there, and Ken, and/or Ken?
I haven't heard one way or the other. I was going to reach out to them and make sure they knew about it.
Okay, I was going to say that it would be great to have them along.
Yeah.
And be able to, especially
They're
be able
always
to
a
help
part
answer.
of the process. I don't know that they show up on Saturday.
Oh,
Someone
yeah.
from the staff usually is there, but we're working through that right now.
Yeah, okay, particularly on answering some of the questions, if there's, depending on how technical those questions may be, in asking us, it'd be great to have those that are more knowledgeable be available to answer those questions.
Yep.
But if not, we can, of course, just say we'll provide the information as soon as.
We've seen the presentation, I don't know how many times.
Anyway, thank you, yeah, thank you, we'll look forward to seeing you Saturday.
Councilmember Ryan.
This is directed to council member Mr. Woodard. If people want to come and pull ivy, is it recommended they bring their own metal rake or hand clippers?
Yeah, great question. Yes is the short answer there. Long sleeves. If you have cardboard, we welcome that as well. You don't have to pull weeds. We were also putting I'm blank. I just pulled a blank. We're putting stuff down as well. So there's lots of ways to get involved. But I would really say if you can bring tools, great. Non-powered tools, of course.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
Is the cardboard a new technique in
Yeah, so
pulling
we
ivy?
put the cardboard down around the base of the trees itself, and then when you put, and I don't know why I'm not coming up with that name, there's a lot of it out right now as you walk by the park, but as you put that down, it keeps the weeds from coming up immediately. So it's just a technique to squash and kill. I'm sure you know way better than I do how that works, but
I don't know, I've been pulling ivy out of my yard forever, but
yeah.
I think I got it licked.
All right. Anyone else for new business?
Just for our residents at home, just know the city will not be paying for lunch. It will be, the Woodard family will cover lunch. So I just want to make sure we're not spending city dollars.
Thank you. Okay, I'm asking again if there's anyone else. And if not, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Sorry.